Christ comes, he's able to point out the fallacies that have risen up in these different versions of Judaism.
Right.
Shows himself to be that Messiah, which, as you're saying, as we're getting up to this point, some of the Jews that are trying to do theology with their scriptures are gesturing towards, right? Like, who's going to be this one like Isaac, who's going to willingly be sacrificed? Isaiah 53, on behalf of the people. These prophecies in Daniel that are talking about the Messiah to come, and it's actually giving dates that are getting around this time, right? And then Christ comes, and then the question is he really it?
Yeah.
And then he dies, and then for a lot of people, the answer is, no. We got our hopes up, right? It's like whenever there's like a movement in, America, and you're like, oh, things are going to get good, and then things get squashed, and you're like, no, right? So they've got kind of this, and then the resurrection ends up becoming this key debated point, right? And then that's where I'm always interested in Paul's interaction, because I always think Paul, I shouldn't say that. I probably have taught this wrongly for years. And N.T. Wright, I think really, he was the author that kind of switched this for me. And I very much buy this, that he says, no. The story of Paul is not about Paul being a mean guy and then becoming a nice guy.
Right.
The story about Paul is he's a zealous, dedicated Jew that wants to make sure that his people are ready for the coming of the Messiah and not do things like sacrifice pigs in the temple or undo circumcisions and all these kind of goofy things that a lot of these groups in Israel are doing. So he wants Israel to be operating as Israel is historically and biblically supposed to be operating. So when he sees this Jesus and he thinks him to be a false Messiah, he's saying that's blasphemy to the highest degree, and therefore that's a serious issue that has to be dealt with. He's wrong, and he figures that out. But it's not like, he's a mean-spirited guy, and then Jesus comes and turns him into a nice-spirited guy. He says, no, he finally realizes Jesus is the Christ. He is the Messiah. He is the fulfillment of the Old Testament scriptures. And therefore, this is now that key that unlocks the meaning of all of these scriptures and all these gestures towards theology.
Right.
And that becomes the launching of this new kingdom. Like you said, it's not a new religion. It's finally that key has been given to what we have always been anticipating. Or as Paul puts it, we've been through now this childbearing period, and now it's given birth to what Judaism was always meant to give birth to, which was this Messiah movement.